How's it going, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. So today we're going to talk about some cross-side dominant shooting. Before I get into this, I'm just going to address this really fast. A lot of people keep asking me, are you right-handed now or are you left-handed now? Because they'll see me shoot with one hand or the other in different videos or what. I don't know. It's whatever I feel like at the moment. Right now I feel like going right-handed. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just kind of doing whatever I want at this point because I can do either. So it doesn't really matter to me. So let's talk about this really fast. When we start talking about cross-side dominant shooting, there's a lot of different opinions that are out there. There's certainly a lot of people out there that do this a little retarded. Let's be honest. So let's talk about this. What cross-side dominant shooting is, for those that have never had to deal with this kind of junk before, is your gun hand, for instance, is your right, but your dominant eye is your left. Okay. So when we're sitting here dealing with all this, we have to take into account a couple of things. With handgun, we can actually move our eyeball over and we can make things a little bit easier. But if we're messing with a rifle and we're going back at it right-handed, a decision really does need to be made. Can I see well enough to actually do this? Right? Because you have some people with like way reduced vision on their gun hand side eye, and people that don't. So for those of you that have like way reduced vision in like your right eye, but that's your dominant hand, and that's what you kind of have to use a rifle with, my advice more or less on that, instead of doing a bunch of goofy crap, switch over to left-handed. It's just going to be easier if you just globally switch over to left hand, because now like all I have to do is retrain my hands on how to use guns again, versus accepting on the better weapon system that you could pick, and that would be the long guns. Instead of accepting the reduced vision over here, if we just go over to the better eye, and all we really have to do at this point is make things not awkward with the left-hand side, that's probably the better route overall to go. Okay, I recognize that that's awkward. I recognize that that's hard to do. Trust me, because I did it. But it's worth it overall, because now I just don't have to worry about what eye is good for what. Does that make sense? So, and worst comes to it, if you have to switch over to the right side with like your rifle or whatever, really, you still have the old mechanics. You can still use whatever that is well, understanding that you've been using more than likely the damaged eye or the reduced vision eye for a long time, so you have some familiarity with that. So if there's a difference primarily in vision, meaning it's not just like this is your dominant eye, it's this is 20/20 and this is awful, or something thereabouts. Like if you wear glasses, a lot of times people have one really bad eye and one that's slightly okay, and their prescription has to change to accommodate that. So that's the advice that I would give for guys in that particular situation. For guys that just have dominant eye issues and good vision, like for instance, I'm 20/10 in both eyes, but my dominant eye is my left. That's a different story, because now you can get away with more things overall. See, now for me, lately I've just kind of used dominant eye with the handgun, and then I'll use the right eye for the rifle. As of at least right now, I notice I'm a little bit faster as far as mechanics. All guns are made for right-handed dudes, things like that, right? So that's pretty easy. As far as the handgun goes, a lot of times people will see guys draw handguns, and if you're doing this right, a lot of times people will really just not notice that you're using your dominant eye versus the eye that's on the gun hand side. Now, there is a little bit of difference in here, and there are a couple of techniques for it, and there are a couple of things that you have to augment based off of modern techniques that really do help you out. So, just as a for instance, we're going to speak on the right-handed side. Okay. For instance, dots on handguns. A really fast way to get your hand-eye coordination right on that side is just to think plate to nose, right? So if we're thinking plate to nose, and that's with your head not moving really at all, and you're lining it up on the right-hand side, if you're just taking your back plate and you're lining it up to your nose, right, it speeds up your hand-eye coordination a little bit. You're on the right-hand side. It's pretty easy to do. And as you continue to do that, you notice that there's less fishing overall, because it's lining up, the back plate's on the nose, and then the dot just kind of appears. There's a couple other things that go into presenting the dot, a little bit of pinky pressure, dropping the dot from 12 o'clock so that it's consistent, that kind of stuff. Like it's those are the techniques made for guys that are right-handed and are using their right eye. Now, for those that have cross-eye dominant issues, there's a slight augmentation. There's a slight augmentation to that. And what I've been using to really speed my game up on that is, instead of going back plate to nose, it's back plate to the upper cheek. Because instead of really cranking my head over and leaving the gun on this side, I kind of marry both together. Where there's a little bit of crank over on the handgun, there's a little bit of the turn in the head. And the reason why it's a little bit is something I'll explain in a minute. But the point is that back plate is to that upper cheek, really close to the eye socket. So now when I'm lining this stuff up, you can actually see my head cant in towards the handgun as the gun itself is moving over just a tad, right? Now, the reason why it's a little bit for both instead of just one extreme or the other is actually pretty simple. And there's reasons for both. Now, one, if I'm moving this all the way over, I'm actually starting to screw with things as far as tension in different limbs, how I'm applying my recoil control techniques. The impulse itself is going to be significantly different. And you'll also notice that the gun's going to start recoiling in a particular pattern over and over, kind of heavy on one side, compared to just lining it up on the right-hand side, presenting everything as square as you can and going from there, right? So when I am just bringing it in a little bit over to this side, it's not crazy. That's even an exaggeration, right? Because if I'm lining it up on the right eye, okay, you'll notice that the gun is here. Now, if I line up the gun and cant the head just a little bit, you'll notice the gun moved over just a little bit. It's not crazy, but that keeps things centered as far as recoil impulse, as far as how the gun likes to travel under recoil, that kind of thing. So that's one thing. Another is your ability to observe. Now, if I'm really canting that head over, and I've seen it before with like other people on YouTube and that kind of stuff. You know, it is what it is. Where guys will really crank that head over almost to the point where they're trying to use a bicep as a stock. And you see this especially prevalent when they're on like barricades and that kind of crap. Barricades in stupid settings that aren't really good for actual handgun shooting in the first place. You know, things like desert challenges and gay shit like that. But like, as we go, you notice that these guys that really crank that head over, you notice a couple of things, right? Because they'll bring it up on this side, right, on the right-hand side, but really crank that head over to the point where if they have a long shot to take, they're basically using this as a stock. Several reasons why that's not a good way to go. And the first is that your ability to just see this way, it gets deleted. Okay, because you're pushing your whole head over this side. There's physical stuff in the way of your eyeballs. And if we're talking about self-defense shooting, if we're talking about using handguns and that kind of stuff, I still need to have a more upright posture. It's not just to pick up my sights, it's so that I can see all the way out here. Okay, if I move this over to my right side and really can't all the way over, my vision is way reduced to about here, as far as your periphery is concerned. That's a lot of your cone of vision that just goes away now because, you know, we can't just meet halfway. So as we go and as we start to observe little things like that, it's very small, but you'll notice that I'm consistently bringing it up and about meeting them halfway. Okay, it's nothing crazy, but it's just a little cant every time. Simple as that. So if you guys have any questions on that, you can throw that in the comment section below. I figured I'd go ahead and answer this question. If you guys want to come out and train with us, you absolutely can. We have classes up on the schedule. Right now we're going to places like Florida, Georgia. We got a vehicle class this weekend. There's another set of mechanical classes that are going down here at Down Zero Range in Dareville, Kentucky. That's actually where the vehicle class is too. You know, we're setting up to go other places fairly soon. I just have to wait on the new fiscal year as far as the Army is concerned, because that's just how that is. But yeah, if you guys want to come out and train with us, you absolutely can. Link for the website's in the description below. If you guys want to support us through Patreon, again, you absolutely can. It really does help. I'm amazed that we've had this much support for this long. What's wild about that too is you can actually get something out of it. If you sign up for $41 a month, you can come out and train with us as much as you want for as long as you're signed up under that, in that capacity. You know, and there are guys that have absolutely abused the system with like 30, 35 classes on them and that kind of stuff. Ammo's coming down, and the climate is the way it is. So if I was you, I would start talking about training. Lastly, we have a Facebook page if you want to be a part of that. Link for that is in the description below as well. And remember, guys, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.